When The Vampire Diaries ended in 2017 and the originals wrapped up a year later, fans believed they had witnessed the end of an era. The rich lore, complex characters, and dramatic supernatural stakes had built a beloved universe. But then came Legacies, a spin-off that promised to carry on that legacy through the eyes of the next generation, most notably Hope Michelson, the daughter of Klaus and Haley. Yet instead of building on the powerful foundations of its predecessors, Legacies often seemed to ignore them entirely. 5 years after the debut of the third series, it's clear that Legacies broke the very rules that made the Vampire Diaries universe compelling and left many fans wondering what happened to the story they once knew. Hope Michelson deserved better. Hope Michelson was introduced as a miracle child in the originals, the offspring of a vampire-werewolf hybrid and a werewolf, something that should have been impossible. She was special, not just because of her tribrid nature, which, werewolf and vampire, but because of the immense emotional legacy she carried. Her parents died to protect her. She was a walking embodiment of their redemption arcs. But in Legacies, Hope was reduced to just another high school student with a supernatural twist. Instead of delving into her trauma, her power, or her place in the supernatural world, the series sidelined her grief and gave her generic storylines and lukewarm love interests. This was a betrayal of the depth that the originals had worked so hard to build. A world that no longer made sense. One of the most jarring aspects of Legacies was how it redefined the rules of its own universe. In The Vampire Diaries and the originals, supernatural lore was tightly constructed. Vampires, witches, werewolves, each had distinct origins, limitations, and rules. But Legacies tossed that structure out the window. Suddenly, dragons, gargoyles, and mythical beings like phoenixes entered the mix without any solid explanation. The villain Malivore, a sentient pit that birthed monsters, became the narrative crutch for increasingly outlandish stories. What had once been a dark, romantic supernatural universe was now Saturday morning cartoon-level absurdity. Tone confusion and missed opportunities. The tonal shift was perhaps the biggest offense. The Vampire Diaries balanced teen romance with horror, while the originals leaned into brooding gothic drama. Legacies aimed for quirky teen fantasy, often resembling Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but with none of the wit or edge. Emotional arcs were often rushed or abandoned, and major stakes rarely felt real. Even characters like Josie and Lizzie Saltzman, who were central to some of the franchise's most intriguing plotlines, like the Gemini Coven's deadly merge ritual, were underused or given baffling story arcs. Potential cameos and returning villains were either wasted or mishandled, like the rushed appearance and death of Kai Parker. What should have been? Legacies had the opportunity to be the darker, more mature sequel that explored the consequences of its predecessors. A show centered around Hope dealing with the aftermath of her parents' deaths, struggling with her immense power, and forging her own identity could have been gripping. Instead, it opted for lighthearted monster hunting and an awkward teen romance. In trying to appeal to new audiences, it alienated the fans who had followed the franchise from the beginning. The magic of Mystic Falls was in its emotional depth and grounded supernatural lore, qualities Legacies failed to carry forward.